So welcome to the first video, and in this video we're going to talk about why should you become a landlord? Why should you buy and hold? Why should you rent out properties to tenants? You may have got a lot of feedback from friends and family. Don't want to deal with late calls at night. I don't want to deal with tenants. I don't want to deal with toilets and all these issues that come along with investing in real estate. First things first, do not listen to people that don't own properties, right? That's number one. Real estate has dramatically changed my life, and I want to do the same for whoever's watching this video. So the first video is we're going to break down why you should invest in rental properties. But before we do that, why even listen to me? Who am I? Why even listen, right? So my name is Mike Delpre, once again, Executive Director of ASREA, the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. I started off in this business 12 years ago, not knowing anything, right? So I was working 9 to 5, I was job hopping. I had a 1-year-old son, I had a wife, a mortgage, I had to pay the bills, but I always knew I wanted something better. I had that gut instinct that I shouldn't have been. Every time I had to go to the bathroom, I had to check out, punch a code into a box and count my minutes from away from my cubicle. So that just wasn't the life that I wanted. So long story short, I found out about wholesaling, right? Other people's money, other people's credit, other people's houses, other people's knowledge, just leveraging everything, little to no money to getting into the business. But becoming a wholesaler allowed me to learn about the power of wealth building through rental properties, right? So I started off wholesaling. I've done over 700 transactions over the last 12 years. In those transactions, majority of them are wholesaling. I have 30 rental properties between Phoenix, Arizona, and Cleveland, Ohio. I've done a lot of Airbnbs, but I have one of those now, and we always have a flip going on, right? So we actually just closed, as I'm recording this video, we closed actually today. Yeah, so I'm just an all-around real estate investor, and all that being said, being in the business, being in the community, I was always a member of our local RIA, the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, and becoming a member and being within the community, I learned how to invest. All right, and then from there, I started teaching here, right, doing the beginners group, doing local meetings, and then I started doing workshops, showing you how to raise money, showing people how to, rent properties, how to wholesale, all this stuff. Then ultimately, gradually went into me taking over as executive director. So I still pinch myself to this day that I am in this position via real estate investing and the executive director. And like I said, 12 years ago, if you saw me, you would not think I would be that guy in this position. So why are we putting this series together for you to watch? One, our members here at ASREA requested it. People, new members want to know. They understand that it's important. They want to change their life, so they want to know how to rent the property. Two, I enjoy helping people. I just naturally enjoy helping people learn. The RIA helped me change my life, so I, in return, want to do the same for others. And rentals are the key to financial freedom. And I say that because when I started wholesaling houses and I was getting my assignment fee, the market was crashed, right? The market crashed. We're at the bottom of the market. It was a great recession. People thought I was crazy for even quitting my job and going into real estate at that time. But those, once again, were the people that didn't know what was going on. Nor did I. But I learned from all those assignment fees that all the foreign buyers, the California buyers, everyone that was coming to Arizona buying these cheap properties, they were building wealth. I was just happy to make my assignment fee because that changed my life in itself. And it took me a few years after to realize, wow, I just got a boatload of smoking deals, and I just gave them away for these taxable transactions. But I learned quickly to switch and get around the right people to start learning how to keep the properties that I'm finding as a wholesaler. So that's why I realized that rentals were the key to financial freedom. Knowing the fact that when you buy and hold, right, we don't sell or keep them forever, right, or you step it up through a 1031 exchange. I started seeing, as time goes, appreciation, which we'll talk about, happens, and it's like, wow, I have equity in multiple properties. Coming from where I came from and not having much, I was like, if I'm in an emergency or want to put my kid through college or want to buy another house and use, I could take money out of the house and apply it to what's needed in life. So for a security benefit, it felt good to know I had access to money if I really, really needed it. Otherwise, kept collecting cash flow. So goals of this series that we're creating here is I want you to own rental property, right? I want you to be able to say, okay, here's the basic fundamentals of owning a property, and now you can repeat this process, right? I'm still going to recommend mentors or being around the right people and more education outside of this, but I want you to be able to have the basic fundamentals and go out there and actually do it and start practicing and applying what you're learning. Be comfortable with the process and be confident in repeating it over and over, and then just to apply these skills. So I'm going to start jumping into why you should become a landlord and a buy and hold real estate investor. This is the Castrol Quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki, right? I'm a believer in what Robert Kiyosaki goes over in the Rich Dad Poor Dad books. Highly recommend reading that. And also the Cash Flow 101 board game. Play the game, okay? I do not sell his education, or I don't promote the education or swiping your credit card to buy a $30,000 product, but the philosophy that he teaches changed my life. So this is the Cash Flow Quadrant, right? Simple. Let's start on the left side. For me, it's employee, right? You're exchanging your time for money, right? Hey, company, I'll be there for 40 hours a week at $20 an hour. I'll do my best. I'll show up. Pay me, right? Self-employed. So think of like insurance agents, attorneys, real estate agents. These are business owners that wear multiple hats, and if they can't leave this business for more than 30 days, right? Or a couple weeks or a week, right? Because if they leave, they wear so many hats and they don't have systems and processes that if they leave, the money stops coming in, things start to catch on fire, the business goes up in flames. So they cannot leave their business. Then we go to the right side, big business, right? Business owners. They architect a system and a process, and they put people in place to generate revenue. Okay, you may always hear, oh, the CEOs on the golf course, they made $10 million this year. Yeah, because they created this system that works, okay, and they make sure it runs smoothly and continues to generate revenue. So big business owners. Then we have I is for investor. Investors want to put their money out there, and they want it all to come back with some more, right? You'll notice that investors mainly invest in big businesses, right? So Robert Kiyosaki says, how do we get from E and S over to B and I? That's the goal of us being real estate investors. So that's my first part. So why real estate is an ideal investment. Have you ever heard of this? Right? So if you haven't, look into it. Obviously, I got a lot of it here we'll go over. But number one is income, right? What are some ways we can make income in real estate, right? Wholesaling. You can make assignment fees, right? Fix and flipping. You could profit from the margins after taking an ugly house and making it pretty. Cash flow from rental properties, right? Gross income, $1,000 minus expenses and its mortgage equals your true net cash flow, right? So you can make money that way. So there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. There's days of this stuff that I can go over, but to keep it simple, wholesaling, flipping, landlording is generally the way people start. There's a way to generate income is the letter I in ideal. And number two, depreciation. It's not how much money you can make, it's how much you can keep, right? You may have heard that saying. So what government does and the tax code does is the tax code has rules that are for everybody to follow, and if you understand those rules, I don't even call them loopholes. They're written for us to follow. So if you're an entrepreneur and you provide shelter, jobs, energy, and a bunch of other things, there's benefits for you to utilize within the tax code. So if we're providing shelter for the citizens of the United States, we have benefits, okay? And one of them, just one I'll go over right here, is straight line depreciation. So a house, let's say it's worth $100,000. This whole series is general, right? I just want to give you the concept and something to work with. So $100,000 house, generally 80% of that is considered structure, 20% land. So on that 80%, you can take a loss on that 80%. So $80,000 is what you can take a loss on. You divide that by 27 and a half years, comes out to about $2,999, whatever it is. So that's a loss, or that's $3,000 that you do not have to pay the government, that just you get to keep in your pocket rather than cutting a check out to this. So definitely get with an accountant. Everybody's situation is totally different, so you're going to want to understand how that applies to your personal scenario with a CPA or an accountant. So depreciation, and I could talk all day on this. I'm still learning to this day. Every time you sit with your accountant, you brainstorm, you have all these neat new things coming into your world and your business. There's more than just a straight line you could work with. So depreciation is the D in ideal. Next is equity buildup, right? So let's say you bought the house for $100,000. You put a tenant in place at $1,000 a month, right? You're not paying, you are technically paying, but the tenant is paying rent after expenses, and the rest goes to the mortgage, right? You pay your mortgage first, and that then pays down the principal in the property. So on average, I'm gonna have an example for us to go through, but usually out of that, if your mortgage is $1,000, I'll say we're using $1,000 as example as rent. Say your mortgage is $700, maybe $200 of that is going towards principal, the rest is interest, right? But your tenant is paying the interest and paying that principal down. So your $100,000 balance over time is going lower and lower, and your tenant paying it. So that's what we call, so after 10 years you owe $70,000, right? That's 70 and it's worth 100, more than 100, right? All that is equity, right? And that's what I was saying you have access to in the future. So that's the E in ideal. Now we have appreciation, icing on the cake, right? We do not speculate. We are not playing the stock market, right? If appreciation is there, we'll take it and we'll use it. Otherwise, as you're paying their balance, over time your house is becoming worth more money. Yes, there's going to be some ups and downs always. Generally speaking, we bought it $100,000, tenants paying it down, and over time it's going up. So this whole equity, this whole gap here is just growing and growing and growing over time. So appreciation can disappear though, right? Like I said, markets go up, markets go down, every market is different. So hey, my house is worth, I could retire on X, I got so much equity, or above, that appreciation. So just keep in mind that could always disappear, but we'll take it if it's there when you need to use it. So that's the A in ideal. And then we'll jump into leverage, how regular people lift boulders, right? So why do we say this, right? So you may have heard, hey, if you want to buy 100 shares of Apple stock, right? I don't even know what it is at, a few $100, I guess. Whatever that is, you got to have 100% of the cash to buy those 100 shares today. In real estate, if you want to buy a $100,000 house, depending on the play, but just keep it general, you can borrow from the bank and put up anywhere from 15 to 25% down. Depends where you go. So you can actually get a $100,000 asset for $25,000 down, right? So you get the leverage. So you're leveraging the bank in order to buy a $100,000 property. So leverage, it can be used in many ways, just like even going into what the wholesalers do. They're saying, hey, homeowner, I'll buy your house at 50 cents on the dollar. If there's enough pain and pressure over there and they hate the house, they'll do it. So they leverage that house, and then they found the cash buyer in the meantime to come up with the cash to pay the homeowner, and they made their split in the middle. So they leveraged the fix and flipper's cash, or the landlord, and they leveraged the other person's house, and leverage, right? So once again, we can go a lot further into leverage in real estate, but that's why real estate investing is an ideal investment. Income, depreciation, equity buildup, appreciation, and leverage. So that's our first video on why you should invest in real estate. And before we wrap it up, I'm just going to go over a quick scenario for you to wrap this up around your mind. Power of cash flow, debt pay down, appreciation, right? So here's the example I have on the screen. Say you're gonna buy a property for $300,000. Maybe you're gonna go on market with an agent, right? Maybe it's been on what we call DOM, days on market. Maybe it's been on there. The average days on market in your area, let's say, is 40 days, right? It sells in 40 days on average. And it's 60, 70, 80 days on market. Well, there's probably a problem there. if a house isn't selling, it's price. So most likely it's overpriced, or it's overpriced obviously, but it needs a lot of work, or the sellers aren't realistic, or they're not really motivated to sell. But you need to call and find out. So in this scenario, I just said, hey, let's say you got a 10% discount on from what it's really worth. So $300,000, you got a 10% discount. So that's 30 grand, right? So now you have an opportunity to buy this house that probably needs some TLC. You can buy it for $270,000. You went pre-qualified for an investment loan for a second property from your local community bank, credit union, or one of the bigger banks, whatever it may be, a DSCR loan. But on average, let's say you got to put 25% down of the 270. That's going to put you at $67,500 down payment. That's usually coming out of your pocket of some way. That will give you a mortgage of $202,500. So here's the breakdown. Let's just say I didn't put a specific rental price on this. So let's say I like to say you should net at least $300 net cash flow, right? Gross income minus expenses minus mortgage equals true net cash flow. So let's say you're netting $300,000 after you analyze the deal on this property. So you make your mortgage payment, you bring home $300 times 12, that's $3,600 a year. You divide that $3,600 into the $67,500 for a cash on cash return, which is a 5.3% return. That's one way to generate a return on investment. The second portion of this rental property, debt pay down. So remember, out of that $700 example I gave on a mortgage payment, so I roughly did the numbers, but on 200, let's back up a little bit on that. So on $202,000 mortgage at 6%, roughly the principal portion of the pay downs vary between $270 and $320. Over time it increases, right? So on average, $300 per month paying down the principal of that $202,500. So that's another $3,600 a year you're paying down. So that's another cash on cash return. That's another 5.3% return that you're looking at on the pay down. Appreciation. Now that national, over the last, depending when you're watching this, over the last few years, during COVID, there was some major spikes in a lot of markets. But traditionally, nationally speaking, they say 3 to 4% a year a house appreciates. So let's just use that number. So on this example, it would be $12,000 in appreciation, right? That's another 17% return on that property, right? So then we go into the other benefit of real estate, which is depreciation. So if we depreciated the 80%, right, and divide that by 27 and a half years, that is $8,727. Divide that into your down payment, it's another 13% return. Add all those together, right? So we got the cash flow, the debt pay down, the appreciation, and the depreciation. Technically gives you a 41% return on your down payment year over year. And I didn't even keep in mind the 10% discount you got when you bought the property as well. So there's so many different variables outside of just what's the cash flow and my return. There's multiple ways to look at multiple benefits of a rental property. So I just wanted to share that example so you could fully understand real estate investing. Like I said, this is how I look at it. I never had anyone break down these different ways to look at a rental property besides the cash flow at the end of the month. So I wanted to open up your mind a little bit on there's more benefits of owning rental property besides just that $300 net cash flow, and in the problems out there that people say, like tenants, toilets, I don't want phone calls at night. Look at all this stuff, right? The equity buildup, the appreciation, 41% return on your, where are you getting that, right? That's not illegal. So this is the first video. We'll wrap it up on why you should be your landlord and buy and hold properties. I'll wrap this one up. The next one, we're going to get into finding the property. What's the right property for you? How do you find that property? What does it look like? And what does it look like for you? Which is what we call your investor identity. So let's build up who you are as an investor and go out and find that first property. See you in the next one.